Hi, and welcome to Digital Classroom Teacher. Today we're going to discuss how to create and how to best manage the settings and assignments of Google Classroom. So, where do we begin? We're going to start on a search browser. In this case, I'm using DuckDuckGo, but you of course can use Google. It doesn't matter which engine you use. We're going to press the first link that should show up saying Google Classroom. And classroom.google.com should be the website address, at least as of 2019 in May. So once we press that link, we're going to be redirected to a page that looks kind of like this. Except if you have never created or joined a classroom page before, then you're going to have a blank screen here with a gray circle and an arrow that points over to the plus button saying create or join a class. So let's start by creating a class with the plus button on the top right. You'll press create class and press this if you're using a private email address, but if you're using a school Gmail account, this prompt will not show up at all. It's just basically telling us that a Google Suite for Education is recommended or required if you're going to be using this class with students at school for security and privacy reasons. Just press continue, and for the sake of this video, we can ignore that. So we want to we want to name our class something that makes sense for us. For me, I'm going to name it for the tutorial Mr. Gen Ed's class. And you can also type in a room number below and a subject. So if you're a single subject teacher, you can type in science or math or whatever it is. Or if you're teaching multiple subjects, you can just leave that blank. But really, room, subject, and section are optional, so you could leave them blank if you wish. The only thing that's required is the class name. We're going to press create, give it a couple of moments to create, and we'll be zipped right into the classroom space. If you want to return to the classroom selector, you can press the lines in the top left, and you can see all of them in a menu on your left. Or you can press the home button and return to this view. Now, you might want to create a multiple classroom system like you see here on my screen if you teach, whether you teach a single subject or multiple subjects, if you have multiple rosters of students. For example, I teach all the subjects, and one classroom is fine for all those subjects, but I do have a math classroom that consists of students from others in my grade. So I might have a homeroom classroom and I might have a Google class strictly for my math roster of students. So let's stick to our example of the Gen Ed class. Assume all subjects are taught to the same roster of students, and we're going to immediately change the settings before anything else. We're going to go to this gear icon in the top right, and where you see stream, you're going to want to change the option from students can post and comment to only teachers can post or comment. If you're super experienced with Google Classroom or you grow in comfort with it, then you might want to play around with changing it to students can only comment or students can post and comment. But I recommend even for the experienced teacher to start the school year with only the teacher can post or comment. And this is just because you want to give the students some time to practice the Google Classroom environment with the limited privileges that can already be given to them without playing with this stream posting privilege. So let's press save. We're not going to touch any other settings. When we add a student, they will not have this option to post right onto the stream, which is fine. We don't even spend too much time here. As we will see, the main hub of all work is actually the Classwork tab. And here we can see a create button. Now this is different than the stream. In the stream, this section is just for typing in a quick announcement. You can see that there's no due date option, there's no topic assignment. It's just for posting a quick announcement. Maybe something you want to share at home, a video, but I don't use this feature very much. Going to the Classwork tab, we can create assignments. We can create quiz assignments where a Google form is automatically created and inserted into the assignment for you by Google. You can click on question to create a question for the class to answer, kind of like a Kahoot or other quiz format. Material, if you just want to give something for a read aloud, but you're not expecting anything to be graded, scored, or modified by the student in any way. This is great for a mentor text or something that you want to print out and hand out to people to read, but you want to save paper. And then there's topic. We're going to ignore reuse post. I don't use it that often. And there's topic here. If we press topic, we're going to create the sections that will organize everything else for us. So you're going to want to create a topic for every subject or unit that you teach if you're a single subject teacher. But if we're teaching all the subjects or multiple subjects, I like to use the topics to title each subject. So I'm going to create a topic for science. I'm going to create one for language arts, for reading and writing, for math, and lastly, of course, sometimes you have to double click this, social studies. You can create other topics to your heart's content, but I don't like to keep this area too cluttered because it's more confusing for me, for how I stay organized, and it becomes more confusing for students to navigate all the materials you will be posting throughout the year. So simple and clean is the best way to go, in my opinion. But I do like to have one other topic, which is schedules, because I like to show students ahead of the week to come what to expect, such as assemblies, field trips, or major assessments, or project presentation deadlines. So let's start by adding something, or adding people rather, to the classroom. Because even if you post anything here, it doesn't mean anything unless you have students in your classroom. And as we can see under the people tab, there are no students. So to add students, we're going to go over to stream, or we can go to the gear icon. You can access this code two different ways, but I like to go through the stream, and we can see a class code underneath the title of the class. We can press this square icon that says display, and it will make it larger on our screens. Now, this is great if you have a smartboard or TV in the class. This way students can see, even from a faraway desk or table, what the code is in order to join your class. And you can even press this square icon again in this window to make it go full screen. Now, I have a window set up here on the side that is a student. They've already gone onto Google. They've already been told by the teacher, by you, to search for the link to classroom.google.com, and they have seen this screen like you have. Except instead of pressing the plus icon to create a class, they're going to press join. And then they're going to be asked for the class code. Now you're going to press, or have them type in what's on your projector. Y5R, Y5R, Z1T, Z1T. Once they join, they will see all assignments and topics that you have created. Now, they'll only see the topics, though, if there is something underneath them, something posted to them. Because we haven't actually posted any work yet, we've only created the topics and they're empty, the students don't see anything. So let's create something for the students to see. We're going to go over here where we see a plus icon again, and we're going to create an assignment, quiz assignment, question material, or reuse an old post. Now, I'll tell you right off the bat, the two and only two that I have used for basically my entire run with Google Classroom is assignment and material. Plenty of teachers make use of the other two options, quiz assignment or question, but I haven't found too many uses for them yet that speak to my, let's just say, my pedagogical approach. So, assignment, what's the difference between assignment and material? If we press assignment, we have these options below, and this is the key difference. You will be able to choose what kind of point system you want to grade on the assignment. You can even say ungraded. You can choose to make a due date. Let's say you have a presentation date in mind and you want students to be reminded of when this presentation is going to be. You can even give a time where the class will begin. The due date is expected to occur. And then you can pick the topic that this assignment will be sorted in the Classwork section. So we're going to click that and select science in this case. No, actually, we're going to start with math. I have something in mind to show you. We'll say year intro. And so let me title it Figure Me Out, which is the name of the Google Doc I plan to attach. And now how do we attach this? How do we give this to our students that we now have assigned here? We have 4 buttons at the bottom. We have a paperclip, which allows us to attach something from our computer, such as a Microsoft Word document, a PowerPoint, or other file, such as a picture or image. We have a triangle-shaped icon that's for Google Drive. and it'll check out our recents by default, something maybe we have been planning over the weekend or with our group during a planning period, or recently, or we can select My Drive. My Drive goes to your folder system, and I personally use this 9 times out of 10 because I'll have something that I prepared far in advance and that will not show up in my recent folder. So I go into my drive, I go into my folders, curriculum, science, curriculum, math, and figure me out. I have this Google document for the beginning of the year. I'm gonna add it to the assignment, and I will see that there's this option for students can view the file. And we can change that to also students can edit or make a copy for each student. Now this file, if I click on it, it'll open in a new tab and it'll show me what it is. Now this is normally something you could print out for students. 30 copies, one for each math student, 60 copies if you teach 2 math classes or whatever it may be. But think then how much paper you will save if you instead just make this into a Google document in your Google Drive and attach it like I have here. Students, if they are turned from students can view file to make a copy for each student, they will then be able to make modifications. They will be able to type directly into the document themselves. And so this is a wonderful savings on paper and also a great way to introduce to them how to use the technology that they might expand on in more intricate purposes for bigger projects down the year. So let's make a copy for each student, and we're not going to pick students can edit file, because if we pick students can edit file, what's actually happening is that you're handing out one Google document for all the students to see together. That is, 30 students will be able to edit the single same Google Doc. And you can already imagine how disastrous that can be for classroom management. You're gonna have people typing over each other, deleting things somebody else did. It is just a terrible idea most of the time. So most of the time, you're going to either be selecting students can view a file if it's a read aloud text or something that they don't need to make changes to, or just make a copy for each student. The only purposes students can edit file can be for, in my opinion, is if you select only a certain number of students at the top of the screen here. So if I had a full roster of students below here, I can check off maybe 2 or 3 that I want to share a single document with, and then they can each edit that same file as I've assigned it. They can collaborate on the same file together. But most of the time, even in group projects, I tend to say make a copy for each student. So we're gonna make a copy for each student and we're going to assign it. Now let's go over to our classwork section and see what's changed. We can see that the math topic now has the assignment listed. And as a teacher, if I click this, it will expand and it will tell me how many people have turned it in and how many people have just been assigned it, who are still working on it. And I have 1 assigned because I have 1 student in my class. Now let's see what it looks like from the student's perspective. If the student is on their classwork page, they will now see the math topic because we've assigned something, as well as any assignments underneath it. When they click on it, it will also decollapse and it will reveal the materials that have been added by the teacher. If they click on the Google Doc or if they press View Assignment, they will have different options. If they press the Google document, it will go right to their copy that you've given them and they can start typing it in. Age 10, they can even practice with changing the font. A lot of kids like to choose their own style of font. Instead of Arial, they might choose, Lobster. Let them have fun with it. It also expresses their creativity on a digital platform. Birth date, etc. And you'll notice in the center screen, and this is really where Google Classroom and the Google document and the whole Google suite enables an augmentation of existing tools, is you can insert a drawing rather than doing it by pencil and paper. They can go to Insert and Draw, and they can press New, and a sketch pad will appear. They can select Scribble, and they can start drawing what they think they look like. Now, this may be difficult with a trackpad or even a mouse, but it gives the student some sense of creativity, just like they would in real life if they chose to, if you chose as a teacher to print this out and have them draw in their figure. So what happens when they've done all this? They could, if they think they're done, they can press View Assignment, and then they can press the turn in button. And if they press turn in, they won't be able to make any more changes. If they want to make any more changes, they can if they press unsubmit, and it will then allow them to make changes again. You see, once they press turn in, it turns to view only. And then when the teacher sees it, let me refresh my page here, it says one student has turned it in. And I can click that and see all the people who have turned it in and all the people who are still working on it. In this case, I can see that this one's turned in. And if I click on it, I can see the individual student's work. I can view their drawing, I can view what they've written, and I can add any private comments. Great drawing. Love to see what you do in the future. Maybe give them some glows and grows. What kind of clothes do you prefer, do you like to wear? Can you add that to your drawing? So you can add a private comment, and you can also highlight something and add a comment directly in the Google Doc. And all of this is quickly accessible, much more so because we are using Google Classroom as a central point to access these files. If you try to do this instead by emailing all your students, maybe making a contact list of all your students at the start of the year, and then emailing your Google Docs, your mailbox is going to be bombarded very quickly with their turned in work. Rather, what you should be doing is using Google Classroom to view all of your students' turned in work and to add any comments on them. And we can just imagine just how much time and energy is saved by collaborating and communicating with students in this way, rather than giving them a piece of paper that they can lose, giving them a piece of paper that you don't know when you're going to get back if they are still working on it at home. And then there's never an excuse that they've lost their work. It is always right here in Google Classroom. Now, what if you want students to add something to the assignment beyond the Google Doc you gave them? Well, a student, when they're in this view, if they press unsubmit in the assignment, there's this add and create button. So maybe they want to actually create another Google document with a story about themselves. Maybe you extend this assignment and say, everybody in the class, open up the assignment and create a new Google Doc inside of it. And tell me a short essay about who you are. So so maybe you can kind of integrate and bridge your number sense at the beginning of math with how old they are, their birth date, with a language arts lesson on a personal memoir. You can really do anything you want. The only thing limiting you is your own creativity. Now, beyond creating a Google Doc, a presentation for Google Slides, etc., you can also have the students add something that already exists on their drive. Maybe they were already typing something, and you maybe from a separate language arts section, but you want to see it all in this one assignment. You can just tell them to go to Add, Google Drive, and they can look in their drive for anything that they want to put into the assignment. Now, even if the students don't press turn in, as a teacher, you can still see everything that they're doing. Because the Google Doc is still attached to the assignment, even if they're saying they haven't finished turning it in yet, you can still access their work and leave comments. So most of the time, I don't even bother telling my students to press turn in, because the feedback process I would rather keep to be continual. Even as a deadline approaches or is passed, sometimes you have people who have reasons for not finishing something on time, and yes, you might deduct points for it, but you still want to give them the chance to remediate on it and catch up. So I often don't advise people to press turn in. I just say, just add and leave it at that. All right, so we have a Classwork page, we have a math assignment, a Google Doc that they've added. Is there anything else we can do beyond this? Well, we have a couple other options that I'll quickly go through before ending this video. We have a material button and some of these other two, the quiz assignment and question. Now, quiz assignment I don't use very often. It's basically just an assignment window, except Google just created and inserted automatically for me a blank quiz Google form. And if you open it, as a teacher, you can see that it's empty and waiting for you to fill in. It can be a great way to collect whether students know something at the end of class. This could be a good exit ticket. Or it can be good as a way to formatively assess students throughout a unit or even cumulatively at the end of a quarter. But personally, me and my team, we use a different system. We use Blackboard's eCart for quiz administering. So the Google form is not really hit on. If we didn't have eCart, I could see using this feature more often, and maybe you will yourself. For questions, this could be good for a single question exit ticket. It's kind of like a Google form, but there's no form. It's just you ask a question. Why is this sky blue? And you can choose below whether it's a short answer response or multiple choice. And this is maybe a quick way to, maybe if you're in math class, you can ask what the answer to a math question is, or whatever it is you're studying. This is something I don't tend to use much. I use a lot of whiteboards, but you gotta do what you as a teacher personally find comfortable as you explore this Google Classroom space. Let's lastly look at material. So we have our topic set up. We've already posted something as an assignment. What if we just want to give somebody or our students something to read, but not necessarily something to work on, not something to modify? That's where you press material. And as you can see, there's no due date, there's no grade, there's just the title, the description or instructions, and a topic to choose from. So let's say I want to give students a read aloud for a light and sound unit. Light and sound. Like I might have mentioned before, I like capitalizing the unit title first and then normal casing the lesson title. Light meets matter. I'm going to explore my Google Drive and I'm going to look at my most recent. Oh, it appears there. So I can select it, or I can go through my Drive system, science, light and sound, light meets matter, and here's my read aloud. You can see that there's no option to allow students to view, edit, or giving a copy for each student because you pressed material. Google treats it like it's a view-only file just automatically. So when you press post, the students will see it and you'll be able to share it with your class. Or we've noticed this arrow here. If you want to schedule this, maybe you're planning your lessons the night before or a planning period the day before, you can actually schedule the post to be released at a time of your next lesson. And I use this option quite frequently actually, because I'm in the middle of planning, I'm doing all this work, and I don't want to have to think about having to remind myself the time before the lesson to post it. And I don't always want the students to see, or you could say, why even post it? Why schedule it? Why not just post it as soon as you can? Well, because if it's the day before or even the weekend before the school starts, then you're going to give students materials that you haven't introduced yet. And that's not ideal if you want the students to follow the activity along with your direction. So you're going to want to schedule things ahead of time. And this is a great feature so you can set it and forget it. And at the top of your screen, in the science section, you will see that it's in gray and it says scheduled for the day and the time you chose. And from the student's perspective, if they go back to their home screen and their classwork section, they won't even see the science assignment you've scheduled. So it's a great feature to use scheduling. So what have we covered? We have covered assignments. We've covered how to post materials and schedule them. We've covered how it looks from the teacher's perspective and how to leave comments and how students can interact with assignments. Now, really, like I've said before, the potential for this is unlimited. And I have found personally that the Google Classroom space has done more to expand the capabilities, the accessibility of technology to all my students from any background than compared to any other tool. These days, so many kids or parents, even in a free and reduced lunch situation, may still have a phone accessible at home. And even if that's not the case, even just giving them this tool in the classroom, and more we are having a computer for each child in our classrooms, you are giving students a high valued technologic experience in your classroom. So it's accommodating for ADHD students. You can leave instructions on the assignments and redirect them when they don't know what's happening to the instructions on the assignment. You have everything centrally located. It is just a great hub to hold your resources and deliver content. So with that, I bid you a good day, and I hope you learned something new. If there's any questions you have or things you'd like me to explore deeper, maybe in a longer recording, I can go into the other options in Google Classroom and all the different ways that it might enable modification and redefining the blended learning classroom experience. All right, have a good day.